It's the season of giving and doing good, right? Then let me be completely honest. I've tried pretty much every Better Health meal kit you can think of, and none have ever really worked for me. That is until I partnered with Factor. Don't bust your belt this bustling holiday season. Eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door with Factor. They're dietitian-approved, meaning the diet doesn't have to take a break while Santa and those usually irresistible Christmas cookies roll into town. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Meal options include Calorie Smart, Vegan and Veggie, and Protein Plus. So give Factor a try today and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Ready in 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. The website is factormeals.com/TOC50, Talk of Champions 50, TOC50. And make sure to use code TOC50 to get 50% off your first order. That's code TOC50 at factormeals.com/TOC50 to get 50% off. Keep Christmas and dinner time merry with Factor, a proud sponsor of the Talk of Champions podcast network.
Talk of Champions Short Sessions.
Long story short.
Welcome into an all-new edition of Talk of Champions Short Sessions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. I'm joined by my publisher at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and affiliate of On3, Chuck Ronzaville. And right now at the Ole Miss Spirit, you can sign up for a sub for the low cost of $1. That's it. $1. Talk all day, every day about Ole Miss sports, be it Ole Miss football, basketball, recruiting, baseball, whatever you love, we talk about it all day, every day at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and affiliate of On3. This edition of Talk of Champions Short Sessions is brought to you in part by Riverland Roofing. Would you like peace of mind knowing that your roof is taken care of? Whether you need an inspection, a new roof, or a maintenance program, Riverland Roofing has you covered. Home or business, as a GAF Master Elite contractor, they can offer warranties that last a lifetime. Licensed and insured, Riverland services Mississippi and its surrounding states. Text or call Riverland today at 662-644-4297. That's 662-644-4297. Or visit them online at riverlandroofing.com. For all of your roofing needs, it's Riverland Roofing, riverlandroofing.com, a proud sponsor of the Talk of Champions podcast network. Chuck, what's up?
What's happening, my friend?
How are you?
I'm good. Just got back from lunch at Nuke's and had a little salad and looking forward to doing this podcast with you.
There you go. So wait a second. You did the salad. That sounds like somebody's sticking to their New Year's resolution. Good for you.
I'm trying, brother. I am really trying, but it's so hard.
So hard. Yeah.
It's so hard. My discipline meter is not very high.
No, mine didn't either. And you know what time it is this year? It's Gracie's 11, and this time of year brings about Girl Scout cookies. And I've been selling them.
There you go.
Yeah. And I've been like, all right, you can put Daddy down for 6 boxes of Adventurefuls. You know, and then I'm like, oh, wait, no, diet was supposed to. So, yeah, I'm proud of you, man. You hang in there. What have you been kind of paying most attention to in Ole Miss sports right now? Is it the Lane Kiffin candidacy or not so much at Alabama? Or what are you kind of looking at right now? What are you most paying attention to? What's got your ear?
I really haven't given that a lot of thought, Ben. I just don't think that he's a viable candidate for them. Now, they may work their way down to him. It looks like they're getting several no's from Lanning and Norvell and whoever else, but I just don't see him as a fit there, and I could be wrong. I think Alabama likes a button-down, serious type. Gene Stallings, Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, those are the guys that have been successful there. And I think Lane's a little freewheeling and a little carefree for their taste. And now they enjoyed him when he was the offensive coordinator there because they were highly successful when he was there, but I just don't know if they want him taking the reins.
Well, as far as what Ole Miss football is doing right now, the new year is here. We know that 12 of the signees that Ole Miss added in December are supposed to enroll this month. What do we know about the guys who have enrolled? I know that Ole Miss is kind of recruiting isn't your forte, but you're plugged in just as much as anybody else. So Tyler Barron, he could be enrolling or not, going to Louisville at any point. What are you hearing about players who've reported? Are there any surprises, stuff like that?
No, so far I think everything's pretty cool, except I did hear that maybe 2 of our JUCO guys, wide receiver Deion Smith and wide receiver Malik Willis, may not be able to get here second semester because of academics, but that's may not. That's not will not. It's may not. They're still working on trying to get him in. Now, the last I heard on Tyler Barron was he was about to sign a year's lease on a really nice home here in Oxford. So hopefully that means he's going to play football here. I hope he's not going to be paying for a lease when he's not here.
Hey, that NIL money is good, but it can't be that good. I don't want to be, I wouldn't want to be in Louisville, Kentucky, paying a monthly rent check somewhere in Oxford. So that makes it. If that comes through, that's I think the biggest story remaining as far as going into this second portal wave for you. What do you think, Ole Miss? Because Ole Miss has done a great job of addressing pretty much all of its needs through the portal, right? But Quinshawn is gone. They go get Logan Diggs. You first reported they were in on him, and then they get him, the running back from LSU, and then previously also of Notre Dame. For you, is there any other, I don't know, positions or players that make sense as far as what Ole Miss might need to fill this thing out going into spring ball?
Well, I think they need another tight end, but I don't, myself, Priscorn and Wolf and then the freshman Javante Connor are the three guys they have right now. And I think Javante needs another year in the weight room. Wolf has been kind of injury prone. So to me, if I were, drawing up my ideal, what I want, I think tight end would be one position. And then I'm not real, I wouldn't say happy, but I'm a little concerned about cornerback. And I hope they go out and get another cornerback or two. I think they've filled every other position pretty well. And I know that they might think they want another offensive lineman, but I don't know if that's as necessary or as critical as maybe another tight end or another cornerback. But that's just my opinion. And of course, and obviously, you have to wonder if Diggs. There's been all kinds of reports that he got injured in the bowl game, and some people say it's ACL, and some people say it's not, and we don't know the whole story on that. But for insurance, I'd like to see him go get another running back as well.
Well, you might be in luck this weekend as far as a tight end is concerned. Daquan Wright, the tight end from Virginia Tech. We reported on the Ole Miss Spirit back in, I want to say, late November, but definitely early December, that he was coming in for a visit that got canceled. Now his visit is back on for January. It's supposed to be this weekend. One of the handful of visitors is coming in. So there's one to keep an eye on. But when you look at Ole Miss's portal haul so far, not even taking into account what they could still get done, who are you most excited about on both sides of the ball?
Oh, no question about it. Walter Nolan. I mean, you know me, man. I'm a trench guy, and it's been a long time since we've had a dominant defensive tackle that can eat up, three blockers. Who's the last one? Parade Jerry, Robert Kimdichie.
Yeah.
DJ Jones was really good, but he didn't eat up blockers like that. This guy is a space eater. So I'm really excited about him being flanked by J.J. Pegues and Xavion Harris, and you got a Kilo Stone in there. I think that our defensive line has really done well. Got two edge rushers coming in that I think's exciting. Pooh Paul at linebacker is going to really help that room. So I think there's some exciting things going on the defensive side of the ball, and then when you add Juice Wells on offense, I think this might be sacrilege to a lot of Rebel fans, but I think he might be better than Trey Harris if he's healthy. He's really good, really good. He's got the top end speed that the pro scouts tell me that Trey needs to work on and develop. So we'll see.
Well, those are two good candidates, and there are a number of ones on defense because that's really where they've done their most damage, and that makes sense considering Ole Miss was vastly improved under Pete Golding in year one, but there's still room if you're trying to go from good to great national championship contention. The defense is what they really had to shore up. I'm curious, though. I mean, when you look at where things are and kind of staff makeup and things like that. I mean, Ole Miss is pretty much on solid footing, but still one thing that I don't know and I can't get an answer to and know that you would have a better answer than me is the tight ends coach, because we thought Kelvin Bolden was potentially getting promoted. What's going on with John David Baker's replacement that you know of?
Well, nothing's been announced.
Yeah.
So how do you know? I mean, Lane's always been close to the vest with his coaching assistant coaching hires. We hear when Sports Information puts it out. Usually, it's not a public thing, or when somebody tweets it. But it was being reported by Football Scoop several weeks ago that Kelvin Bolden had been promoted. But from what I hear from the insiders, that has not happened yet. Now, that's not to say it won't happen, because Kelvin's been pretty valuable to this whole experience that they've had here at Ole Miss football. The program building, he's been pretty important. So I could think of worse people to promote, but it hadn't happened yet, as far as I know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at. It just hasn't happened officially yet. We thought it was getting close to that point. And I would kind of push back against that. We find out when Sports Information does. We do a pretty good job of keeping our ear to the ground and putting out what we know, what we're hearing, and Chuck does it better than anybody on the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and Affiliate of On 3. Anytime you go there, I think the most popular posts every single day are the ones where Chuck just simply titles a post, a new thread, as hearing. And that's kind of what precipitated me getting you back on this podcast. What other things? Tell me something that you're hearing that's juicy, maybe. That doesn't necessarily have to be true. It's just, this is a podcast. What are we doing? It's Friday.
Well, unfortunately, my hearing lately has been a little negative. Like I said, I put up a post yesterday about Deion Smith and Malik Willis possibly not being here second semester, which would certainly hamper their advancement, learning of the system and everything. Spring's always important for JUCO guys. And, I'm not well received when the hearing isn't good news.
I disagree.
I actually had to delete the post because we had some folks, we need to cut bait and forget about them. That's silly. That's just silly talk.
No.
Deion Smith is a real talent. And we need him. We need him in that wide receiver.
This isn't the old days where you had to worry about APR and shit like that. It's about getting the best football players eligible and on campus. I mean, Ole Miss will do everything it can to get Deion Smith on campus. You do not cut a talent like that, especially in 2023 loose, when you're on the verge potentially of a national championship. You don't do that, or contention for a national championship. And that's kind of where I am, Chuck. I mean, I'm trying to quell my expectations and talk myself down, because you know me. I swing with these huge emotional swings. But for you, when you look at where Ole Miss is and what it could be in 2024, are you with me, or are you going to throw a little cold water on my, never-ending pours of Kool-Aid?
No, I think it's setting up fantastic. Not only have they done a good job of filling all the holes that graduated, they did a great job of retaining the players that had an extra year. They did a great job of in the transfer portal. They did a fantastic job with 4-star recruits from high school. With the JUCO, they did a great job. The schedule is very favorable. But let me tell you another factor that makes me optimistic about Ole Miss's situation, and I've written a column about that, but I just haven't published it yet. The things that are going around at other schools. I mean, Alabama's, they're not going to stay at top right now. They can't. They're losing Nick Saban. That's like losing Bear Bryant. It's going to take them a while to recover from that. They're still going to have athletes, but, they're not going to be the same. Arkansas's Sam Pittman's hanging by a thread. LSU lost a Heisman quarterback, a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Texas A&M is starting over with a new coach. Florida's bellied up down in Gainesville. They're floating dead. So it's Mississippi State start from scratch, and they hadn't done real well in the transfer portal, and they weren't very good last year. So all around you've got the teams that, we've been on a par with. We're way ahead of some of those teams now. Auburn's struggling. I mean, Hugh Freeze over at Auburn has got issues with his staff, with his players. He didn't do great in the transfer portal. So, Ben, I'm not only looking at Ole Miss on the rise, I'm looking at some other teams that seem to be on a downward track.
Yeah, you look at Ole Miss and the trajectory of other programs, it's hard, or if not impossible, to not be optimistic about what Ole Miss can be next season.
Absolutely.
You brought him up, though. It's our guy, Hugh Freeze, and I don't want to knock him or anything like that, but you're closer with him than anybody when he was here. So what do you think about kind of what's going on there? Because not only I don't think Cadillac resigning had anything to do necessarily with Freeze, but in one off season to lose both coordinators and have all this public nastiness. What do you just think about old friend Hugh Freeze, old Ole Miss friend Hugh Freeze, and his struggles at Auburn?
Well, I mean, obviously they're taking on water. You got him saying, on signing day that they didn't do a very good job in the transfer portal. You know, why? Why would Auburn not do a very good job in the transfer portal? It's certainly not about money. It must have been about poor organization or something. And then you got him after the bowl game. He's saying, "Well, I wasn't involved in the game plan." Well, why? I mean, it's been weird to me, and I don't communicate with Hugh anymore because he's at Auburn and I'm at Ole Miss, and I don't care about Auburn. But there's just been some strange things going on over there. They lost both coordinators after 1 year. Apparently he's going after Derek Nix now off of our staff to try to see if Derek wants to be offensive coordinator over there. But Hugh's already publicly said that he's going to call the plays next year. So, I mean, is that really a promotion for Derek? So there's just some strange things going on over there that don't give me a warm and fuzzy feeling that they're going to be, real good anytime soon.
See, this is what our podcast should be. That was a great hearing post by itself. D. Nix getting courted by Freeze also shows that Hugh hasn't expanded. He hasn't changed anything about himself or how he operates. And I'm not knocking him. I'm just going to say he hasn't changed. And that includes a very limited Rolodex as far as when he needs to go out there and make some hires, because I love Derek Nix, but really after year one, you're going to come and try to get Derek off of a wildly successful staff only because you have past history, because that is not a promotion when you don't get to call the plays. But what the hell do I know? Freeze is going to freeze. Before we get out of here, one thing that isn't a mess is Ole Miss basketball, and they are 14-1 and 1-1 in the SEC now, following a disgusting loss to Tennessee that I was in attendance for. Turn around and bounce back against Florida with the first 100-point offensive performance for Ole Miss since 2001. This team is pretty much checking every box for me, Chuck. What about you? What do you think about this team so far?
Well, I thought that the Florida game was critical for them to bounce back after getting trashed in Knoxville by a really good Tennessee team. But then, as I'm waiting on the Florida game to start, sitting down in the bowels of the pavilion, watching Mississippi State beat Tennessee, I got a little sinking feeling that maybe we weren't as good as I thought we were. But then we come out there that night and steamroll a decent Florida team. And what's striking to me, Ben, is how important it seems like home court is in SEC basketball. Mm-hmm. The crowds, the officiating seems to favor the home team a lot, and not intentionally, I don't think, but subconsciously. And I don't know. It just seems like in basketball, it's a bigger advantage than in any other sport, in my opinion, that I can see. So it's going to be critical for Ole Miss to take care of Vanderbilt tomorrow at noon. Get back on that winning track, stay on that line. LSU's coming up. Then Auburn there. That's going to be a tough game. Auburn's a really good basketball team, but I like this team. And I owe one of the players an apology. I've been very critical earlier in the year of Jamin Brakefield, but I'm going to tell you, I've watched him really closely in the last 4 or 5 games, and he is the leader of this team. And I don't even think it's close as far as leadership for any other player on the team. He's the coach on the court, and he's producing. And I'm definitely owe him an apology for having trashed him a couple of times earlier in the year.
And give him credit, too, for this. I mean, it's the shot efficiency. Defensively, he's always going to be limited because he's disadvantaged because he doesn't have a lot of bursts, especially when he leaps. And yet This year, he's overcome those defensive disadvantages because he can't really jump all that well, and offensively added to his bag to where over the last, I think, 6 games, as you referenced, he's shooting close to 70% from the floor. He's been their emotional leader. I mean, Jamin has been the guy driving this thing in a lot of ways. So I'm glad you brought him up because absolutely. I remember a couple years ago, Ole Miss was worried that he was a bust coming over from Duke, and now look at him. Where would they be without him? He's become quickly, like you said, the leader of this team that I think is on the verge potentially of making the NCAA tournament. But I love how Chris Beard's gone about it, Chuck, and that's one thing I wanted to touch on real quick is you look at how he handles himself, and he allows his players to play. I mean, he sits there on the bench if you observe him for enough time, and he lets those guys make mistakes. And I think these players, especially guys that need freedom like that, like Matthew Morrell, have really taken to it. Jamin too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Anybody that doesn't appreciate Chris Beard's coaching style hadn't paid much attention to basketball the last few years. I mean, this, like you say, he lets them play. He's got a great system. He demands a lot of them, but at the same time, like you said, he allows mistakes and they lets them play through mistakes. And I think he's got a great substitution pattern too. When you look at Sharp and Cisse, the way he gives them each about 5 minutes apiece and make sure they get a blow and make sure they're fresh the whole game. And then the way he's using Brandon Murray now coming in, and when we're seeing the real Brandon Murray now more and more since he got eligible late in the process, basically in January or late December. And I just think this team has a lot of potential, and I think he pushes all the right buttons.
I do too. He's just been the perfect hire for Ole Miss, exactly what they need, and I've already seen it from enough people and gotten text about it. Every school of consequence will try to come after Chris Beard in the offseason. It's going to happen. But, I mean, I brought up all kinds of scenarios to a bunch of different people, Chuck. I'm sure you have too. And the general consensus I get from the most high-level people I could talk to, sources I could talk to about this stuff, they say, hey, don't like slow that down a little bit. You know, don't get ahead of yourself. Chris Beard loves it here, and I think that there is something to that when you think about all those possibilities. Ole Miss fan, Chris Beard, Ole Miss did right by him, and he's done right by Ole Miss. So it's not so simple as I'm going to go to Louisville or something. Let's go ahead and chill with that. So you don't think Lane's going to Alabama then? We can go ahead and go into the weekend, and it's all good. You're telling me not to worry about it.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal with all our coaches now, Ben. We don't have to take a back seat to anybody for resources.
That's right.
Salary, assistant coaches' salaries, facilities, whatever coaches need, we can provide them the same tools that anybody in the country can. Basically, I mean, there might be one or two places that are a little more or fancier, but they're no better. You know, what's the ToC Center? Fantastic practice facility for men's basketball and women's basketball. They got a training room, a weight room, everything you need there. The Manning Center, the pavilion. I mean, there's none better. And we pay our coaches as good as anybody in the country. So I'm no longer afraid of people coming in and stealing our coaches over a few $100,000 or a couple $1 million. We can match them, you know, and we're not scared of them.
Thank you. That's what I've been saying all week. It's not like Tubbs going to Pete and saying, all right, give me a practice facility or I'll walk. You know, this is just not how it operates anymore. Ole Miss has shown that it'll step up and pay for his coaches and support them with the resources that it can, the best possible resources that it could possibly provide. He's Chuck Ronzaville, my publisher at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and affiliate of On3. Sign up today for just $1. We talk all Ole Miss all the time at the Ole Miss Spirit. It's either football recruiting, basketball recruiting, baseball, you name it. We talk about it if it's Ole Miss sports at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate of On3. And make sure to subscribe, rate, review Talk of Champions, this podcast network in iTunes. Simply search Talk of Champions. Wherever you get your podcast, we're there, and show us some love. He's Chuck. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. You're the best, man. We'll do it again.
All right, brother. Enjoyed it.